or using the term resistance while on the job. But some ethics advocates say that likely crosses a legal line. Marc Thiessen's a columnist for the Washington Post, a Fox News contributor and fellow for the American Enterprise Institute. Marc, good morning to you. So,
good morning, Sandra.
What do you make of this new guidance, I should ask?
Well, the fact that this is controversial just shows how insane our politics have become. This is just simple common sense. In 1939, Congress passed something called the Hatch Act, which bans political activities, with the exception of a small group of people and senior positions, where bans all political activities by federal workers in the workplace. It's been upheld by the Supreme Court twice. It's been amended by Congress in 1993 and 2012, signed into law by President Obama. And what the law basically says is when you're in the workplace, you can't engage in political activity. You have to behave in a nonpartisan way. And so what the Office of Special Counsel has done, and by the way, it's been applied in a bipartisan way. The Office of Special Counsel, which enforces this law, has reprimanded Kellyanne Conway and Nikki Haley for potential violations of the Hatch Act. So this is not something that an office that has been going after Trump opponents. And what they did is they issued a guidance that says, I quote, "When on duty in the federal workplace or invoking official authority, employees have to avoid political activity, and that includes advocating for impeachment or advocating resistance." And it says, this is quote, it underscores that this only affects conduct that takes place on duty, and that employees are free to engage in political duty while off duty or away from the federal workplace. What is controversial about that? I don't understand why anyone would oppose this.
Yeah, because that's an important part of this. So in addition to advocating for or against impeachment of a candidate for federal office, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But also terms like resistance and #resist would be construed as political activity, Marc.
Yes. Because it is. You can't, if you work in the executive branch, the head of the executive branch is the President of the United States, whether it's Barack Obama or whether it's Donald Trump. You can't come to work and resist your boss and his agenda. That's not your job. There are political appointees. In government, there are two types of workers. There are political appointees. When I worked in the White House, I was a political appointee. That means you come in with the Republican administration or the Democratic administration, and when they are out, you leave. And if you want to do that and be a political appointee, that's fine. But when you're a federal worker, you work for whoever is in office, whether they're Republican or Democrat, and you're supposed to serve them faithfully, because you're not working for a political party. You're working for the American people. You're working for all the taxpayers, including the ones that voted for Donald Trump. And if you can't do that, if you can't behave in a nonpartisan way, quit, leave.
Now to your latest piece, Marc. Gene editing is here. It's an enormous threat. And you write this as a Chinese scientist, as we now know, has claimed to have created the first genetically edited babies. And that, of course, evoked widespread condemnation. Some people saying it's far too premature. You're asking the question in this piece, should we be doing this at all?
Absolutely, it's a really it's a fork in the road for us as humanity. I mean, if you think about this, there's two different things. There's gene therapy and gene editing, and genetic engineering, which are two different things. Gene therapy is a really promising part of medicine where doctors can go in and repair faulty DNA to fight cancer or genetic diseases and all the rest of that. And when they make those changes stay in the body of the patient. Genetic engineering is something else. Genetic engineering is when they take a new life in a petri dish and change its genetic code entirely, and those changes are passed on from generation to generation. So once you unleash this, if you make a mistake or do something wrong, it's not just that one person that's affected, it's all of their children and their children's children who could be affected by this. And playing with humanity's genetic code is extremely problematic, and it really, quite frankly, it could be the end of the American dream. Because if you think about it, if you can alter the genes to fight disease, you can also alter genes to create superhumans. The same technique that can be used to fight muscular dystrophy could be used to give people super strength or super speed. Fighting the same technique to fight dementia could give people enhanced memory or cognition, and only the wealthy will be able to afford that. So we'll have two classes of people: the genetically enhanced elites and the unenhanced poor. And this whole concept that our country is built on, that anybody through hard work can advance themselves, will be gone, will be effectively dead.
It's a great piece for anybody who's interested in reading it. You conclude it by saying this is the bottom line. We should not be playing God. Genetic research, you say, when used to create made-to-order super children, we have crossed a moral line from which there may be no return. Marc Thiessen, good to have you on the program this morning. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Facebook under fire.